Welcome to a brand new episode of Wrestling with Siblings. I'm your host, Araceli, and this is my co-host, Armando.
Hi guys, I'm Armando, and welcome to Wrestling with Siblings.
Alright, let's get started with Raw. The architect, the man himself, Seth Rollins, opens up the show. He comes out, and he basically asks Baron Corbin to come out, and he has something to say, and he's basically shot his shots at Baron Corbin. He told him that Raw has sucked ever since he took over. He's told him that he hasn't really done anything but abuse his power in Raw, and pretty much that Raw has sucked and that the ratings have gone all the way down ever since he's been in charge.
Yeah, he's pretty much speaking on behalf of the entire locker room, that half the locker room's unhappy with what's going on and what Baron Corbin is doing.
Exactly. But Seth also pointed out something very, very interesting. He said that Raw has the best roster it's had in years, and I completely agree with that. I do feel like they have so much talent and so much potential now in the roster that they could do so much more with them than what they are doing now.
By far, this is the best generation that Raw has had in a while.
And he also said that the Revival should be running for tag champions, and instead they're not. Instead they're jobbing, and he feels like part of that is because of Baron Corbin. We got into that in last week's episode where we said that we thought the Revival should be, champions by now, and that's something that Seth touched up on.
Yeah, and no doubt about it, it was part of Baron Corbin's plan that they didn't become champions. It was because he gave the opportunity to Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre during that time, and they just took advantage. So they pretty much got screwed over the title, and they haven't got an actual opportunity ever since then.
And we do know that the heel Baron Corbin said he doesn't care, and he calls this his show, and that he is extremely confident that he is going to be winning this Sunday at TLC.
Yeah, he's playing it safe. He's playing it smart. He thinks that and knows that Braun Strowman is not going to show up.
But I wouldn't be surprised if he does. I mean, it is Braun Strowman, and we know what's at stake here. Braun is the only man that can save the entire Raw roster as of right now. But we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, don't underestimate Braun Strowman. It'll be interesting to see if he does show up. And if he does show up, then who would be the general manager if Baron Corbin does lose?
That would be very interesting. Maybe they'll have Kurt Angle come back. Maybe they'll go with one of the women. I don't know. We would have to wait and see on that. But Seth Rollins does challenge Baron Corbin to a TLC match on Raw, and Corbin refuses. And after being called a coward several times by Seth, he accepts. And we are going to have that match later tonight as the main event. And it will be for the Intercontinental Championship.
Again, Seth Rollins, why they call him the architect, he pretty much set up Baron Corbin for the match, and Baron Corbin fell for it.
He's brilliant. But saying a prediction between Baron Corbin and Strowman, what's your prediction for this week's TLC?
This is a hard one, just because we don't know if Braun Strowman is going to show up. If he does show up, then I'm going to go with Braun Strowman.
I agree with that. If he shows up, even if he only has one hand, I still think he would win.
Yeah.
But given the fact that Baron Corbin has been abusing his power lately, I'm not entirely sure. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens this Sunday.
And I don't think Stephanie McMahon would be too happy with his performance that he's been doing in Raw for the past couple of weeks.
Exactly. I completely agree with that. All right, let's move on to the very first match of the night, which was Bobby Roode and Chad Gable versus AOP and Dave Maverick for the tag titles. This was basically a 2-on-3 handicap match. We kind of knew how this was going to turn out going into the match, but it had a completely different outcome. Bobby Roode and Chad Gable became the Raw Tag Team Champions by defeating AOP.
Totally unexpected from what had happened last week, where it was pretty much the same situation where they attacked Chad Gable in the back, and then Bobby Roode was in an actual matchup, so it became a 3-on-2. So, but AOP, you really didn't see them losing. But Drake Maverick's ego got the best of it, and that's what cost AOP the match.
The thing with Bobby and Chad Gable is that, one, they're super, super quick, and that allowed them to take advantage of the situation, and they were able to capitalize on that to win the Raw Tag titles this week. And AOP, hey, they had Drake Maverick, they became champions, they got to where they wanted to be, and now it's like, is this going to lead into a feud? Because they have lost twice to these guys because of Drake's fault.
I remember I've been saying it for the past few months and weeks, is that I didn't see Drake Maverick being a good leader, and this is why. He pretty much cost AOP the titles, all because he wanted to do a pinfall.
Exactly. Completely agree with that. Alright, moving on to Natalya coming out. She talks about giving her heart and soul to the business, had to overcome everything to be in the WWE. She wasn't just handed the position that she is, and she feels like she represents the entire Hart family, and that she really had to prove to them why she deserved to be part of this business and why she truly is one of the best. And she also did say that she is dedicating her match at TLC to her father. And then Ruby Riott comes out only to say that Natty feels sorry for herself. And, she starts, again, talking trash, not only to her, but about her father, I guess you can say, because she came out, the Riott Squad brought out a table, and she said that at TLC, Natty was going to be closer to her dad than ever, and on the table, there was a printed picture of her dad.
Yeah, this is now turned personal for Natty. She is pretty much gonna...
Exactly. She's pretty much gonna go above and beyond to try to make sure Ruby Riott doesn't come out victorious, to try to prove Ruby Riott wrong. But I also feel like they took it a little too far. And yes, I do understand it's part of a storyline. I get that. But it's like they've incorporated this further enough. And I feel like Natty is always the one, trying to get the pieces together. And Ruby Riott, brilliant from her side. Why? Because she's getting inside Natalya's head. She's making Natalya vulnerable. And that is going to benefit her at TLC.
She knows Natty is weak to a certain point, and she's knowing how to get to her, like you said. She's playing head games, and that's going to be the way to get to Natty. And she figured it out.
Exactly.
And keep in mind right now, Natty doesn't have Ronda on her side to come out and defend her. She's kind of been focusing on Nia Jax and Tamina.
But who do you think is winning this tables match at TLC? Ruby or Natalya?
I'm going to have to go with Ruby Riott, man. She's been looking solid. She's got backup Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan. Numbers game.
In numbers game, yeah, I definitely agree with that. I do feel like Ruby Riott is going to end up victorious. I feel like she needs the win, desperately needs to win. Why? Because it's going to be putting her over, especially against the talent that she's going up against, which is Natalya. But I also feel like so much has happened to Natalya ever since SummerSlam up until now that she needs at least one victory to prove all of them wrong, But I do definitely think that Ruby Riott will win and benefit from a victory at TLC.
Yeah, and like I said, the numbers game is going to be crucial in this match.
All right, let's get into Drew McIntyre versus Dolph Ziggler. Again, two of the elite talents of this roster, two incredibly talented individuals. As we do know, they were partners and even tag champions a while back.
Yeah, and in this match, we saw Dolph Ziggler try to take advantage by attacking early on, by attacking McIntyre pretty much. And one of the things that I kind of like about McIntyre now is that he's more aggressive than when he first came up in the main roster.
And I feel like he's finally found himself in his character, and not only that, but I feel like he's found that he's super powerful and he uses that to his advantage each and every single time. He wasn't giving Dolph Ziggler any opportunities to come at him. Not one. And if Dolph Ziggler was able to capitalize, he would capitalize for a few seconds, and then the power of Drew McIntyre would just take over all over again.
And again, overall, this was a great match, but McIntyre was the one that ended up coming up on top in this match, proving why he deserves a title opportunity. If not right now, maybe down the road.
And I'm not surprised he was the one that ended up coming victorious, because as we see, he knows Dolph Ziggler. He pretty much used them to get to the top. And not only that, but I feel like while they were a tag team, partners, I feel like he was studying Dolph Ziggler and he was trying to get to know him beyond just the ring so that he can utilize everything that he learned about Dolph Ziggler to his advantage. And we've been seeing that lately.
Well, yeah, it's logic. It's common sense when you have a partner. You tell him everything. You tell him as far as like, look, I'm going to do this. When I do this, you do this move. And, it makes sense because you try to work together. So pretty much he knew Dolph Ziggler since the beginning. And he knows how to get to him. And he knows that if he doesn't let him create offensive, he was pretty much going to be victorious.
And Dolph Ziggler, again, I feel like he's super underestimated at talent-wise, because I feel like he's super athletic and nobody ever, talks about Dolph Ziggler the way they should. I feel like they just see him like a mid-card or jobber, which is the way he gets booked, but talent-wise, he's an elite star.
And again, his match did not disappoint, even though we saw it with McIntyre again.
Exactly.
His matches are always good.
Exactly. And we were able to see some of his veteran skills come into play, when he would try to reverse certain moves and stuff. But McIntyre, unfortunately, did take home the victory.
Very, very impressive on McIntyre.
But let's get into the TLC match really, really quickly. Who do you think is going to win? Finn Balor or Drew McIntyre?
I'm going to have to go with McIntyre. I like what he's been showing for these past couple of weeks. And he just looks solid and he looks good. If nobody interferes in his match, he's going to be able to pull off the victory. And keep in mind that they've been having
Finn interfere
in
his matches lately. But I 100% agree with that. I do think McIntyre will be the one taking home the victory, unless the only way that I see him not winning is if Finn Balor decides to bring out Demon Finn. Then the entire situation just changes.
And keep in mind that McIntyre has a huge card on his side, an ace underneath his sleeve pretty much. He's got Baron Corbin on his side.
Alright, let's get into the next match, which was a women's match. Let's get into Bayley versus Alicia Fox. Let me just say one thing. I am extremely happy that these two are getting the opportunity, because I feel like between Sasha and Bayley, Sasha's the one that gets the more opportunity and Bayley is just always kind of pushed to the side. We have seen a better Bayley, though. I feel like she's new and improved. I feel like she has gotten so much better. And I don't know if it's just because we haven't seen her in a while, or if it's because she's just gotten that much better, or if they're letting her showcase that NXT side of Bayley that we haven't seen in a couple of years. But I am very, very impressed by Bayley lately.
Not only that, but also she's been proving herself in the mixed match challenge with Finn Balor. I think they did a great job partnering them together.
Unfortunately, they did get eliminated because Finn was injured and they had to replace him with Apollo Crews. But getting into Alicia Fox, I also feel like she's been doing fantastic. Her veteran skills also coming into play. We saw the amazing athleticism that she portrayed between this match with Bayley. Wow, incredible. Another underrated superstar.
Yeah, both of them are getting the opportunity now, so I'm happy to see more of them on Raw. And hopefully it keeps going so they can show their full potential, which they really haven't because of the lack of opportunity.
And again, the Singh Bros trying to help out Alicia to beat Bayley. And then as soon as that happened, Apollo Crews does come out to help. As we do know, he was the one that replaced Finn Balor, as I said a little bit earlier. And then Bayley takes advantage of everything that's going on outside to be able to pin Alicia Fox and take home the victory. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing her at TLC, though. But it's okay. She'll be there. It's her hometown. Alright, moving on to Dean Ambrose. He's pretty much backstage, and he claims that Seth wants all the spotlight for himself, that he has a big ego, and he claims he will take the championship from Seth. at TLC. Prediction. We'll get into that first since this was just a backstage segment.
I'm gonna have to go with Dean Ambrose on this one. Definitely, I think his heel turn
Has really helped elevate his
has
career.
really helped him out. And since he came back, he's had a huge moveset change on his repertory, pretty much.
And I have to 100% agree with that. I don't see Seth retaining. I feel like he's held the Intercontinental Championship for quite a while now, but I think bigger and better things are coming for Seth Rollins. And a lot of you guys might agree with me, and a lot of you guys might disagree with me. But if I had to give one superstar of the year, if I could pick one from Raw and one from SmackDown, Raw would be Seth Rollins, because ever since coming back, he has been at the peak of his career. And on SmackDown, I would pick The Miz, just because of like the major improvement he's had. And I think bigger things are coming for Seth Rollins.
We are going to be on the same page on this one. I would agree with you on that one. But going back on the match between Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins for TLC, keep in mind that Seth Rollins is not going to be fully focused. He's not going to be at all there for the match.
And part of that is because Dean Ambrose has been able to get into his head. He finally found the way. I don't think I've ever seen somebody get into the head of Seth Rollins just like Dean Ambrose has done it the past couple of weeks, or I guess you can say months. And I feel like that's really going to affect him going forward into this match.
Yeah, and we know when the Seth Rollins is not fully focused, he really doesn't perform at his full potential. So that's a plus for Dean Ambrose.
And it's going to be a fantastic match, so we look forward to seeing that one.
And not only that, it's going to be a fantastic match because WWE did a lot to protect this match and not have them face each other throughout this feud.
Exactly. Talk about protecting the main event, even though it's not going to be the main event. But you guys understand what I'm saying. All right, let's get into Elias. He finally got to perform a pretty lengthy song, even though he said he would rather perform at a Gasland district rather than, there. But, it is what it is. Then Bobby Lashley comes out, and then we're going to get the match Elias versus Lio Rush. Elias being very, very smart, immediately attacking Lio, overpowering Lio Rush. Are you really surprised, though? Look at the size of Lio.
I wasn't surprised, but what I was surprised of was the match. I didn't expect Elias to be facing Lio Rush, which we all know Lio Rush is part of 205 Live, part of the Cruiserweight division, so I didn't expect them to face each other in an actual match.
Especially on Raw. But I gotta admit something. Lio Rush, the little opportunities that he had, he took very well advantage of them. He showed something that we hadn't seen from him. Because as you guys know, we see him weekly basis and usually talking for Bobby Lashley. And this time we actually got to see the athletic side of Lio Rush. And I think he did great.
Yeah, definitely. And we all know that in 205 there's a lot of great athletes with a lot of great movesets. And, we could catch him at 205.
Exactly. And Lio Rush tried to use his quickness and his size to his advantage against Elias, but then he had an even bigger plan, which was Bobby Lashley.
Yeah. And we all know Bobby Lashley got involved, which resulted in the win for Lio Rush.
And the reason why he was able to win was because Bobby Lashley basically hit Elias with his own guitar with the disrespect, man. The disrespect.
And who was the referee for this match?
Heath Slater.
Again, part of Baron Corbin's plan. As we all know, last week he won the match against Rhino. Therefore, he was able to keep his job in the Raw roster, but not as a superstar, as a referee. And we saw Baron Corbin play one of his cards, and he pretty much favored Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley in this match.
Abuse of power, ladies and gentlemen. Will it change after TLC? We'll just have to wait and see because we don't have an answer for you on that one. All right, let's get into Alexa Bliss. She basically comes out and she's immediately interrupted by Nia Jax. She didn't even get to say a word. She didn't even get to introduce Nia Jax. She immediately got interrupted. And so Nia comes out and she basically just wanted to make a statement, and she say that she will become the new Raw Women's Champion at TLC and wants Ronda to lay the title at her feet instead of actually fighting her. She said she wants to save Ronda the embarrassment of actually losing to Nia Jax. Therefore, prediction?
I'm going to have to go with Ronda on this one.
I definitely agree with that. I don't see Ronda Rousey losing. Do I think Nia Jax has a great opportunity? Yup. She has probably the biggest chance anybody has had lately, but I don't see her winning it.
And keep in mind that when they faced each other at Money in the Bank, there wasn't an actual winner between them two. It was a pretty even match. The only reason why there wasn't a winner was because Alexa Bliss cashed in her Money in the Bank that exact same night.
Exactly. Therefore, we didn't fully get to see both of these women's full potential. And keep in mind, when this match first happened back at Money in the Bank, Ronda was still fairly new to in-ring competition, at least in the WWE. Now, I feel like from where she was at Money in the Bank to where she is now, she has improved tremendously, and that is going to play an even bigger role in this match.
I agree with you 100% on that, but then I also see a more confident Nia Jax for two reasons. One, because she's got Tamina on her side, and I mean, that's pretty intimidating if you ask me. Number two is because of what she did to Becky Lynch's face. She calls herself the face breaker now. So she's pretty confident, and she pretty much is telling Ronda that she wants a freebie for the title, that she's not going to be a match. But, like I said, her confidence is up there, and we'll see what happens. I'm still going to go with Ronda at TLC.
Ronda Rousey then comes out, and she says she's basically there to fight. And Nia and Tamina basically exiting the ring, and Ember Moon is Ronda Rousey's backup. And then that leads into a match between Tamina and Ember Moon. The powerhouse, Tamina. The high flyer, Ember Moon.
Again, Ember Moon, she's just been super impressive. She's one of those superstars where we have to keep a close eye on her.
Exactly. And she is one of those superstars that's always improving. Every single time you see her in the ring, she either has something new or she has just gotten 100 times better than what she was before or the previous match that you've seen. And Tamina is one of those who's a veteran. She's smart. She knows exactly what she's doing, and she knows how to get to her opponent.
And I think partnering Tamina with Nia Jax was a great idea, and it was the best thing for her in her career right now.
They balance each other out. They really, really do balance each other out. And I feel like Tamina is a lot more focused than what she was before. And again, going into the confidence, I feel like Nia Jax has given Tamina that sort of confidence that she didn't have before.
Yeah. And another thing too, Ronda has the advantage that Ember Moon has been by her side ever since this feud started. So she may be in her corner instead of Natty.
Exactly. And in this match, we did see that Ronda Rousey being at Ember Moon's corner played a huge role just because the numbers game was even. There was no, okay, there's more against me, if that makes any sense. All right. Let's get into the main event of Raw, which was Seth Rollins versus Baron Corbin in a TLC match for the Intercontinental title.
And do I really have to say this? Seth Rollins, again, stole the show along with Dolph Ziggler.
Exactly. He definitely did. But let's get into Baron Corbin really, really quick. He has improved so much. 100%. I feel like him transitioning to Raw really, really helped him out. And the match that he had with Seth Rollins, he basically dominated Seth Rollins for the majority of this match. That is hard to do because of the type of performer Seth Rollins is.
Yeah, like you said, especially with Seth Rollins, it's rare when you see Seth Rollins being dominated like Baron Corbin. But then again, like I said, it's most likely because he is not focused 100%. He has his mind on Dean Ambrose.
Yes, I agree on that, but I also feel like Baron Corbin did his homework. And I feel like he has been watching Seth Rollins really, really, really closely. He was not giving him any opportunities to come back. He definitely gave him one of the best matches I've seen.
Not only that, but he was also being brutal. And I feel that also partnering with Bobby Lashley and McIntyre has really, again, going back to the confidence, has really boosted that, and he feels himself like he's untouchable. And again, the referee for this match was Heath Slater,
who we got to see turn heel to try to help out Baron Corbin in winning this match again. Abusive power, using everything that he can to his advantage to try to favor himself. And Seth Rollins, again, it took him a while to be able to capitalize. And he was brutally attacking Baron Corbin as soon as he was able to capitalize. It wasn't for too long, but he has some amazing stamina, and I feel like that's something that's always helping him out in each and every single one of his matches. And he was able to retain the Intercontinental Championship on Raw. Therefore, he moves on to TLC to defend it up against Dean Ambrose.
That is correct.
All right, let's get into the A show, which is SmackDown Live.
Again, this match, when it was first announced, it was a complete surprise. I did not expect it. It was Daniel Bryan versus Mustafa Ali.
Yeah, well, let's get into the match. Basically, here's how it all went down. Daniel Bryan, he comes out and he starts talking all this nonsense to the crowd, and Mustafa Ali decides to come out and tell him, dude, I looked up to you. You were one of my inspirations. You were one of the people that motivated me. And basically, Mustafa got him fired up, and that's what led into the opening match, which you just said was Daniel Bryan versus Mustafa Ali. And so far, Daniel Bryan was dominating the match. And we got to see that throughout the majority of the match, to be exact. But Mustafa Ali, I feel like the little opportunities that he had, took 100% advantage of those. We saw some of the best moves we've seen in a while with Mustafa Ali.
Definitely really, really impressed me throughout the match. I kind of don't follow him a lot in 205, to be honest, but he was very, very impressive. Like I said a couple minutes ago, I did not expect him to face the new Daniel Bryan.
Exactly, but getting a little bit into Mustafa Ali, we do know he's one of the elite superstars in 205 Live. I don't think that now. I feel like he is at a main roster level, and I do feel like he deserves more opportunities. Not necessarily taken out of 205, that would be fantastic, but I also feel like he's helping that division in so many different ways right now. But he would do 100% better in the main roster. And again, we don't follow 205.
Definitely, he is main roster material, and I feel like he deserves the opportunity, and he proved it against Daniel Bryan.
Exactly. And let's not get into Bryan. Physical punishment. We already know the talent that he has and how far he's willing to go to retain that championship, and I guess to follow his dreams.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a different Daniel Bryan. He's been more aggressive, and he's willing to go above and beyond to get that win, which we didn't see in the past.
Exactly. Let's get into the Bar versus the Uso, the rap battle. This is very interesting because we haven't seen this in a year, I want to say, when it was the Usos versus the New Day, right, in a rap battle.
Yeah, that is correct.
All right, this is the second ever. The New Day is hosting, which we already knew was going to be hilarious, just because they're hilarious one way or another. They come out and everything they do is just absolutely funny. But let's get into a rap battle. The Bar, they had a pretty funny performance, and I feel like their attire was performance as well. I don't think it was fitting, but I also think it fit them really, really well. I'm kind of in between.
Yeah, and then another thing too, Big E said that they were pretty much trash, which I thought it was pretty hilarious. Even though the Bar did a pretty good job in the rap battle.
Hey, they didn't do that bad. They really didn't. But as you did say, it was pretty funny that Biggie said they were trash.
Yeah, that came from Biggie. It didn't come from me. So
exactly.
Make that clear.
Exactly. You could go back and watch the footage. He did say that. And the Usos again. Did we really think they were gonna lose? No, because it was kind of home game for the Usos. It was pretty obvious. They pretty much said that for the last 10 years, the last decade, they've had no injury and they've been the best in the business. And I feel like they've backed that up since day one.
Mm-hmm. In the ring and outside the ring.
Exactly. And we did get to see the Bar clean house. Therefore, who do you think is winning? The New Day, the Bar, or the Usos at TLC?
This is probably one of the hardest ones, but I'm going to go with the Usos.
You're going to go with the Usos?
Yes.
I don't know who to go with, but I can tell you this. Whether the Bar retains, whether the Usos become new champions, or whether the New Day become new champions, I will be 100% okay with that for one reason and one reason only. These three teams can all carry the division, and each of them will keep the division at top. So it doesn't really matter who comes out victorious.
Not only that, but this is a even match. They're pretty much even between all three tag teams. So it's pretty hard, but I'm going to go with my gut instinct, and I'm going to pick the Usos.
You're going to pick the Usos. That's a pretty good pick. That's a really good pick. All right, let's go back into Daniel Bryan because we forgot to do the prediction. But Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, really, really quickly so we can move on to the next match.
I'm going to stick with Daniel Bryan.
I 100% agree with that. All right, let's move on to the next match, which was The Miz. He basically comes out and he's 2/3 of the best in the world, and he comes out with the trophy. And he basically calls out Shane McMahon and tells him that he wants to tell him something. And he asks Shane to be his partner. As we've seen before, he's told him and Shane has refused. Shane thinks he has no business pretty much being Miz's partner, but he kind of forced them into being his partner because he brought out some jobbers. We're calling them the jobbers because we don't know their names. And he made them go into a match, and Shane ended up doing the majority of the work. He basically got jumped by these guys, and Miz did nothing to help him.
Yeah, he pretty much set him up for that match, which was brilliant on part of the Miz.
And we do know it was a setup because we got to see the jobbers come backstage and talk to Paige and be like, well, Miz said you owe us $5,000 for the performance. And Paige did mention that this was the reason why Naomi and Mandy Rose didn't end up happening, because he booked the match he wasn't supposed to. I think it was brilliant. Now it's going to be very interesting to see where they're going to go with the Shane and Miz storyline. I can see them feuding.
Down the road, possibly, if anything, Royal Rumble. If not,
Fastlane or Elimination Chamber, whichever one is next. But what do you think? The Miz, his performance lately.
I think he's been doing a great job. He's kind of right now stuck in the middle, whether he's
heel or face.
Heel or face. I'm sorry. So I think he's doing a great job, and like we said, he is long overdue to be WWE champion. Do
you think Shane will end up partnering with him? Because from what we've seen so far, he's kind of been in denial. He's kind of been like, kind of iffy about it. Do you see them as a tag team going forward?
Yes, but I feel it's a plan from The Miz to get something out of Shane McMahon.
Possibly the WWE Championship that he's been wanting for years now. And
knowing Miz, he has something up his sleeve. That's why he wants Shane McMahon on his side.
Brilliant. I 100% agree with that. All right, let's move on to Randy Orton, who comes out and explained that Rey is his victim and has always been his victim, and that he has a cherished match against Rey Mysterio at TLC. And not only that, Rey comes out and pretty much attacks Randy Orton from behind. What do you think? Prediction.
Prediction on this one, I'm gonna have to go with Randy Orton.
You're going with Randy? I'm going to go with Ray, only because I feel like he needs a huge win to put his career, back to where it used to be years ago. And I feel like beating an elite superstar like Randy Orton is going to do that for him. And it's going to put him on a different level.
Yeah, I just like this aggression and this new Randy Orton that we have in SmackDown.
And we've always known, heel Randy has always been the best Randy you could ever possibly get. It was just a matter of, him finally getting to be a heel. And I feel like each person that he has gotten to face or that he's picked on, he's really proven why he really is a legend killer.
Yep, definitely. And that RKO comes into play anytime. That's why it's RKO out of nowhere.
It is very, very crucial. And like I said, I think this is the match that's going to put Rey Mysterio back on the map. He needs a big win. What big superstar has he beaten since his return?
That I can think of out the top of my head. I know he has had some good matches. He's beat Jeff Hardy.
Yes, he's beat The Miz. He's beat Andrade. But beating somebody like Randy Orton is the way to go. That's always...
It'll benefit his career.
Exactly. Sure. Especially now that he came back and a lot of people see him as being old now and not being able to, deliver the way he used to before. I feel like that's 100% false.
But if you really look at it, he is in the best shape of his life right now. We saw it when he came back last year in the Royal Rumble and these past couple of weeks that we've seen him in action. I mean, he looks in better shape all around.
I 100% agree with that. All right, moving on to Rusev and Jeff versus Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura. Jeff Hardy and Rusev is kind of an odd pairing. It was kind of like Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, or kind of like Sheamus and Cesaro at first. It was an odd pairing, but I ended up liking it in the end. I feel like it works. There's chemistry there, and I feel like there could be something moving forward with these two.
And not only that, but Jeff Hardy has been kind of feuding with Samoa Joe, and Rusev kind of got screwed over by Aiden English a couple months ago against Shinsuke Nakamura, and he really didn't get that rematch opportunity that he deserved.
Exactly. And Samoa Joe, he's had some of the greatest feuds this year all the way around. From his feud with AJ to, I believe, feuding with Roman Reigns, he has had some of the best feuds.
Even with Brock Lesnar, when he faced Brock Lesnar, he took it to Brock Lesnar, and I thought he had him beat. And not only that, but Paul Heyman's expression says it all when he was talking to Samoa Joe, saying that he's not going to get another title opportunity.
And there's a reason why Paul Heyman is saying that, and you just said it right now. He was so darn close to beating the Beast, which is something we haven't seen in quite some time. I mean, other than Roman. And Shinsuke. I feel like he's gotten just lost and caught up in everybody else's hype because he is the U.S. champion. And he has maybe, ever since being U.S. champion, he's probably had about 6 matches at max.
Yeah, and correct us if we're wrong, but I think he's only had, if anything, maybe 2-3 title defenses during his United States Championship reign.
Exactly. And it's there's so much Shinsuke could do. And there is so much talent he can face and put over.
And I'm sure we all can agree that we want to see the Shinsuke Nakamura that we saw in NXT and in the Indies.
Exactly. 100% agree with that. Let's move on to the WrestleMania 34 rematch. Asuka versus Charlotte Flair. Wow. this match, we knew ever since it was booked that it was going to be one of the best matches, and it deserved the main event, and I feel like it played up to the hype for the second time. I was not disappointed, but damn, Asuka was ready for Charlotte this time. She studied, analyzed, and realized what she was going to have to do to beat Charlotte Flair.
She learned her lesson from the WrestleMania match they had last year.
Exactly. And I feel like Charlotte wasn't expecting the Asuka that she saw Tuesday night on SmackDown.
No, because she knew she had already beat her. She thought it was going to be another easy win. But it wasn't.
Yeah, clearly she was wrong because Asuka proved her and everybody else wrong. Asuka, who we said on last week's podcast is kind of being underestimated, proved that you can't underestimate her. She gave the Queen a fight, and she took her to her limit 100%.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing too is that when we saw Asuka try to execute her submission move, she couldn't execute because Charlotte was already waiting for it and pretty much was able to counter it. And another thing too, Charlotte's size didn't help Asuka out on executing her submission moves.
What it means by size is that she's big, basically.
Lengthy,
She is tall, and Asuka is short compared to Charlotte, and that did play a huge factor.
And if you analyze the match, Charlotte would always be in a position where she could always reach the ropes. And she would either, like I said, her size, her being tall is where it came into play.
And reversal after reversal after reversal was happening in this match, whether it was Charlotte or Asuka. I feel like they both knew that in order for Asuka to beat Charlotte, she was going to have to make Charlotte tap. And in order for Charlotte to beat Asuka, she was going to have to make Asuka tap. And Charlotte knew that going into this match. Obviously, that's how she defeated Asuka at WrestleMania. But Asuka was a lot more prepared this time for Charlotte.
Yeah, she knew what to expect.
And, she faced her before, so it wasn't like she was going into this just playing on blank. And Asuka was outsmarting Charlotte all the way around. Absolutely all the way around. Every time Charlotte tried to do a submission hold on her, Asuka was there to counter it. She was there to reverse it and make sure she wasn't put it.
Perfect example was when Charlotte did the moonsault and Asuka put her knees up and Charlotte landed on it. She immediately went into the Asuka lock.
Exactly, and every single time that Charlotte tried doing the figure eight, she never could. Because Asuka was prepared and she was ready for what was to come next.
That or she'll try to counter it with the pinfall or by reversing it by turning the figure eight around into
her own submission. And, that was plain brilliant. And one thing we have noticed lately is that when Charlotte gets frustrated or she feels like she can't beat somebody, she just loses it, she snaps, she turns into a completely different Charlotte Flair.
And we saw that against Ronda, and we saw it against Asuka this week. So that, at the end, may come back and haunt her in her matches later in the future. Because that's the only weakness that I see from Charlotte. Once she gets frustrated, she completely loses it.
And I feel like this is from recently. I feel like this has come from her feuds with Becky Lynch, because before she wasn't like that. She would just not give up and continue pushing. Now she snaps.
Yeah, and I think it has to do with the opponent, just because the opponents she's faced recently have already studied her and known her so well.
Exactly.
And that's where the frustration comes into play. And with Ronda, that she wasn't able to submit her like Asuka, she would counter everything. And that's where the frustration came into play.
And don't be surprised if this plays a factor at the TLC match between Asuka, Becky, and Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's Championship.
And another thing, too, that we forgot to mention was that Becky was at ringside throughout the match, observing, obviously, scouting for TLC. And we did see Asuka use a kendo stick. So we know that she could use any type of weapon. And she put it to good use.
we know that Asuka is prepared. She is not only prepared for Charlotte Flair, we saw it this week on SmackDown, but she is prepared for Becky Lynch.
Who is your pick for TLC? Becky, Charlotte, or Asuka?
Asuka, 100%.
We're going to have to agree on this one, too. I want Asuka to win just because of what she showed for in this match, and she's been showing for the past couple of weeks.
And not only that, but I feel like she's an elite talent. She really is up there with the rest of the women that have, paved the way. She's not going to get the title as a 4 horsewoman, but she is equally matched to each one of those 4 horsewomen.
And ever since she lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania, she really hasn't gotten that opportunity. She's just kind of been there floating around,
helping put other people over.
Yeah.
And now this is her chance. This is her opportunity. This is the big push we have been waiting for ever since her loss to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 34. This is it. This is her opportunity, and I look forward to seeing Asuka become the champion at TLC. And I'm excited because if she does become champion at TLC, not only do we get to witness that, but it's going to go down in the history books as San Jose being the place that she actually won her very first championship.
Yep, that is correct. Excited for TLC. A lot of great matches. It's looking to be one of the best pay-per-views of the year so far.
Yes, and what a fantastic way to close out the year. Stay tuned for next week's episode of Wrestling with Siblings, which will obviously be the TLC review. So stay tuned for that. And remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And make sure you tell people to become a sibling today, because we are doing this on a weekly basis. And for those of you that do not know what WWS stands for, Armando, can you tell them what WWS stands for?
Wrestling with Siblings. Again, thank you guys so much.
We'll see you guys next week on a brand new episode of Wrestling with Siblings.